Welcome to the 13th round. My name is Frank Lotierzo. This is a boxing show. We're going to try to teach what isn't taught. We're going to have some fun. We're going to do some pre and post-fight coverage. And I'm going to try to bring things that you don't get on other shows. However, this morning we are joined by former Ring Magazine editor, he never printed my articles, and former New York State Athletic Commissioner, Randy Gordon, first guest on show 2 of the 13th round. How are you, Randy?
I am fine, Frank. How are you doing? The reason
I'm doing great, and I didn't send you any articles. That was just a little jab. I'm sure you would have printed them.
Of course.
Anyhow.
But I wish you were a licensee in New York, because I would have loved to have suspended you for some reason.
You would have had to stand in line to do that. Anyhow, this is a sparse week of boxing. Last week, the previous week, next week, there's not too much going on. Last week, I detailed some of the outstanding fights that we've had so far. If we just went back from Bivol and Canelo, it's been an outstanding run. There are 2 fights coming up that round out the season. In August, we had Anthony Joshua fighting a rematch with Alexander Usyk, the man who beat him last September and took all 3 of his titles. And then in September, we're going to see Gigi and Canelo Part 3. Now, regarding the Joshua and Usyk rematch, Randy, let me tell you this. At one time, I hate to admit when I'm wrong, but I was really high on Anthony Joshua. I thought he had natural charisma. He looked like the heavyweight champion.
Yeah.
He had good form. He could punch. And I thought everything is there. He has the big UK following. And then the night he confirmed his arrival, when he beat Vladimir Klitschko, he was knocked down in the fight. He came back. He won. And he did something that Mike Tyson nor Lennox Lewis ever did, and that was get knocked down in the fight and come back to win. But he's never been the same fighter since. And the last couple of weeks, I'm reading things where he's saying, I tried to box in the last fight. I thought I was the boxer. No one said I was losing. Now I have to go back and be more George Foreman than Muhammad Ali. And I'll be honest with you, and I want your take on this. I'm not liking what I'm hearing from Anthony Joshua going into this August 20th rematch with Usyk. What do you say?
Frank, I thought I was the only one who was thinking along those lines. But one day he says that he's got to be George Foreman. Another day he starts talking about, well, I really have to box this guy. I got to be more Ali. Next day I got to do a little bit of both. I got to box him when he wants a slug. I got to slug when he wants to box. I'm not sure how confident he really is, because Usyk, I think, is a very, very underrated fighter. And I'm not so sure that Joshua is 100% confident that he could beat him again, that ever beat him.
You know what I think the problem is, too, with Joshua? Usyk is not a very big guy, but he is a very tough guy mentally. He's big enough. I mean, he's basically the same dimensions as Ali. He can box. He's tough. I think he has a mean streak in him. And I think one of 2 things is going to happen regarding with what's going on in Ukraine. Either he's going to draw from the war and want to raise his level for his people to give them something to be proud of, or maybe he hasn't, maybe he's fractured from it and we won't know until he gets in the ring, and he might not be the same guy as he was the first time they fought, but we can agree on one thing. He doesn't have to change anything.
That is the big question. Like, which Usyk is going to come in the ring? We just know him as an outstanding fighter. He was an outstanding amateur. Of course, what he's done as a pro, just amazing. I mean, he's kind of followed Evander Holyfield as being a cruiserweight champion, a great cruiserweight champion, moving up, going to heavyweight, and then pulling off this incredible victory over Anthony Joshua. His boxing skills are probably the best amongst all heavyweights out there. And as you pointed out, I mean, you know, when you first think about Usyk, when you say Usyk to somebody, they'll say, oh, you mean the small heavyweight. Yeah, he's not small. He's Muhammad Ali's size. And nobody ever said Muhammad was a small heavyweight. Just like when people say Evander Holyfield, a small heavyweight.
He's bigger than Joe Louis.
He was bigger than Lewis, and he's Sonny Liston's size. And when you think of Sonny Liston, he was about 20 feet tall, about 1,000 pounds.
You're right. Another thing that I find interesting with this fight, besides Joshua, what I perceived has been his fractured mindset. And I do believe that for him to win, Randy, I think he has to go into the fight with the mindset. If there's a 6th round, a 7th round, he's not going to win, because I've said probably on your show, I've said on our show, I've said that Joshua's body can beat Usyk's. He has the physical ability to beat him. I don't know if he can steer it that way and if his brain will process it to do it. But the other thing I noticed that no one has talked about is if he loses to Usyk, okay, he's 0-2. Randy, I think his career is over. I mean, will somebody pay to see him fight Deontay Wilder? Probably, but I really do think if he's well, you want to see the excitement, but don't you think as a mainline contender, as a top flight contender, if he's 0-2 against Usyk, do we really have any use for him, knowing that he's never going to be the top guy? I think this is a crossroads career make or break fight for Anthony Joshua.
I think it could be a crossroads fight, but maybe when you look back at it and you say, well, he lost twice to Usyk, but there are other heavyweights there. Let them come up now. Let them have their day in the sun, because for the last couple of years, it's been all Joshua. It's been Andy Ruiz. It's been Usyk. It's been Wilder. Now let the Joe Joyces and the Daniel Dubois and those guys, let them come in. Let Jared Anderson develop, because I see in him future heavyweight champion of the world. Let these guys come up. But the thing is, I don't think it's going to be the end of the world. Let's see what happens in the Joshua Usyk fight.
I kind of
close decision. Is it going to be a knockout, a blowout decision? Let's see.
I kind of think, Randy, if Usyk takes him apart, I think I don't know if boxing fans are going to have much use for Anthony Joshua. And you said something about Jared Anderson. Think about this. Now, Jared Anderson is an American heavyweight, and from what I've seen in his 10 fights, he can box, he can punch, he has a good temperament. But think about this. The U.S. has not produced a great heavyweight since the Evander Holyfield, Mike Tyson era. Since then, we've had the Klitschko's, Vladimir Vitali, we've had Tyson Fury, and we had Lennox Lewis. So the last 22 years, basically, America has not been a player in the heavyweight division, and maybe we get that with Jared Anderson, because he's about 240, he's big enough, and he looks like he might be the most athletic guy of the up-and-coming heavyweights.
He really is, and he's young. I think he's just about to turn 23 years old. So, like you said, let's see what happens in this fight. Does Usyk come out and blow Joshua away? Or is it going to be a tough, close fight? Is it going to be a fight of the year candidate? And if it is, are we going to see a third one? That's what boxing is all about.
Well, Joshua has to win, as far as I'm concerned, to see a third fight.
Yes.
Let's close the book on Joshua. Let me ask you this. if you had to pick today, who would you pick?
It's funny, but I keep waffling back and forth. But just to go back to your point, I'm not liking what I'm hearing from Anthony Joshua. I think he's very undecided about what he's going to do in that ring, what Usyk is going to bring, and what he can bring over to Usyk. I'm going to
Right.
go with Usyk on another decision.
Okay, and I agree. If I have to pick now, and I really can't see anything changing my mind, I would pick Usyk to win. I'm a little worried about the contract that Joshua signed for $100 million for 2 fights. That's not a contract that you sign where they give you that much money when they think you're going to lose. But we'll see regarding that. But right now, okay, we both like Joshua as of the 4th of July. Staying with the heavyweights, there's another guy out there who's making some noise. His name is Frank Sanchez. Cuban fighter, 20-0, 13 knockouts. He's talking about he would like to fight Deontay Wilder. And I know at one time you were a Wilder guy. Wilder, I was slow to come around on. I believe his right hand is legit. He has unbelievable courage, and he lets his hands go. But I don't know what we're going to get the next time we see him, because that last fight with Tyson Fury, that third fight last November, Randy, I think that did to Joshua what I think the Thriller Manila did to Ali and Frazier. They both really pounded each other. 2 big guys like that. And I'm not sure what we're going to get from Wilder.
Exactly. I think if there's a question mark over the head of one fighter in boxing, I think it's got to be Deontay Wilder, because he came out of that fight banged up. It was another tough fight. It was the toughest fight of his career. He had another right hand severe injury that he needed surgery on. And he has had surgery, major surgery on that right hand about 6 or 7 times in his career.
I didn't realize it was that many times.
Yeah, I just don't know what he's going to have. I hear he's looking good in the gym, but he's always in shape. He is always in that gym doing floor exercises. This is not a guy who likes to run. And because of the brittleness of his hands, he doesn't do much bad work, but he loves to spar, and he gets a lot of sparring rounds. I just don't know who it is that he could jump in with next. And you mentioned Frank Sanchez. I think that is a very bad opponent.
If I was Wilder, I wouldn't go there. Frank Sanchez is on the rise. He's ascending. And Wilder, again, we don't know what we're going to get from him. But if you think about it, picking Wilder's next fight, the opponent, that's not an easy task, because if you think of the top guys out there, not knowing what he has left, other than maybe his mindset, and we don't even know about that because he's made about $50 million. Maybe he doesn't want to fight anymore. But I think matching him would be a tough call. I mean, I wouldn't fight Andy Ruiz if he's in shape. I wouldn't fight him. Who else is out there? I wouldn't fight Sanchez. I mean, maybe Effie Ajaba would be a great opponent, but would he take the fight? I don't know. But do you agree that Wilder's a tough guy to manage right now?
Oh, I think he is, because you got to sit back and say, okay, who does he fight? Would he be better in against a slugger, or would he be better in against the boxer? I think I'd rather see him against a big, strong puncher, somebody who's coming off a big victory, a guy like Daniel Dubois, who just stopped a very highly overrated, over-touted Trevor Bryan. I think
right.
big, not F.A. Ajagba, because he lost to Frank Sanchez. And you saw what a boxer can do to F.A. Ajagba. I think that Frank Sanchez would beat Deontay Wilder because of his size. He's big. He can box. I'd put Deontay Wilder in with a big, strong, stand-up guy who's almost kind of stiff and slow, like a Daniel Dubois, who could be hit by right hands.
We agree. Wilder, you want to stay away from a good boxer because we know he can be outboxed. I mean, he always has the potential to land the right hand and knock you out, but against a big, slow guy, he would be better and he would match up better with him. Okay, so I agree with that. I don't know who we're going to see Wilder fight next, but it would be a shame if we don't get the same guy because, in that last fight with Tyson Fury, he won over so many people with the way he fought. And it was one of those losses, even though he lost, he didn't really lose in the eye of the public. Man, his record will show a loss, but he won over a lot of fans, and he showed so much heart and determination. And if you think about it, he kind of solidified that Fury is probably the guy in the division right now.
I would say that Fury definitely is the guy in the division. Look, he has had 3 fights now with Wilder. And a couple of years ago, if you said if they fought 3 times, I would have said Deontay wins all 3 fights. Who would have ever thought that after 3 fights, Deontay Wilder was going to be 0-2 and 1?
Winless.
I mean, never. I got to give it to Fury. But the fact is that if Fury, and yes, he's retired right now, but you could mark my words.
There's no way he's retired. No way.
Today, he is retired. Yes.
Yeah, today.
Today, he is. I get, and I think right up until the day of the Alexander Usyk Anthony Joshua fight, he's going to be retired. But right after they fight, guess what? Guess who's coming back?
He'll be calling the winner a doser, and he'll be promoting the fight. Absolutely. He went to the Mayweather school, and he took very good notes.
Absolutely. That's the way to do it. And everybody's going to want to see that fight. And whatever that number is that Tyson Fury asks,
he's going to get close to it.
He's going to get it. You know, if he asks 100 million, maybe he won't get 100 million, but maybe it'll be 70 million. And I guarantee you, if it is Fury against Usyk or Fury against Joshua, either one of those fights is a major
showstopper. No doubt. Showstopper, without a doubt. Definitely a monumental fight. Okay. There was also some news this week, and I don't know if we've ever talked about this fighter. I was high on him at one time. His career didn't pan out like I thought it would. But 4 belt holder, 4 division titles, Mikey Garcia, 40-2, 30 knockouts. He officially retired this week. Now, Randy, I was a big Mikey Garcia fan. I thought he reminded me of a little Alexis Arguello, where he had the perfect fundamentals, hands up, chin down, all the straight punches, no wasted movement. Everything that was done had a purpose. But he moved up in weight. He started at 26. He went all the way up to 47 to fight Earl Spence, and I think that was a colossal mistake, as we saw. And what I want to ask you is, one, what do you think about Mikey? And do you agree with me that Mikey Garcia retiring when he had 2 belts at lightweight and Vasily Lomachenko had 2, I really believe, had Garcia gone through and fought Lomachenko, because we know Lomachenko wants all the belts, and he would have definitely fought Garcia. Had they made that fight at lightweight, we've had a lot of great lightweight fights, but they were never showstoppers before. We never had a Leonard Duran or a Hearns Leonard or a Quali Spinks or, the big heavyweight fights. I think that would have been the most anticipated lightweight title bout that we've ever seen.
I think you're absolutely right. But here's the story. And I came to realize this years ago. Mikey Garcia is not a fight fan. Mikey Garcia, basically, even though he comes from a family of fighters and trainers,
right,
everything else, Mikey Garcia has never been in love with this sport, especially on the competitive side. He might like watching it a little bit. He might like hanging out in the gym or maybe be a trainer. He doesn't like the competition end of it. He doesn't, it's just not him. And he openly said this to both me and Jerry Cooney a few years ago on our Sirius XM show. We flat out asked him, Mikey, do you like boxing? And he said, no, I don't. He said,
he admitted that, really?
I'm in it to make money. And when he said that, that's something that, I never want to hear a fighter say, ever want to hear him say. And with that told me where his mindset was.
This sport, you have to eat, sleep, drink it, and then some. Mm-hmm. You can't think about the money. You have to love it. You want to be able, you want to beat everybody. You want to be the best you can be, fight the best,
Yeah.
and that's it. If you think about the money, you're barking up the wrong tree, because if you do the other things that I just said, the money will come. But with Mikey, boy, I'll tell you, I think we really, really missed out. I think at 126, 130, and even maybe 135,
135.
I think he could have been a Hall of Famer. I really do. He could punch.
I
He had
totally agree.
he had everything down. I think he would have been 50-50 with Lomachenko.
I think you are right on the money with that. Look, he won so many. He won how many? 4 divisional titles: 126, 30, 35, and 40. Anything past 135 really wasn't the great Mikey Garcia.
I
And
agree. From 40 on up.
26, 30, and 35.
Yes.
He was a terrific fighter. And like you say, Lomachenko and him, mind-blowing how big that fight could have been.
Both guys in their prime, 4 belts on the line.
Yeah. Once he moved up and he went to 140, because he told us, I'm killing myself to make 135. Well, a lot of guys kill themselves. How much was he killing himself to get
right
35?
And don't let yourself balloon up in between.
Mm-hmm. But you know what? He went into the Errol Spence fight undefeated. And when I saw him go in and he said he was coming back as a welterweight, that he feels strong at this weight, I'm thinking, this is not his weight. And Errol Spence, I was ringside for the fight, and I just sat there. By the 3rd round, I was shaking my head, wondering, the only question I had is Errol Spence going to stop him, or is he just going to shut him out? At the end
that was the
fight,
only question I had going in. To me, there was no doubt in my mind who was going to win. I think Mikey was a bad matchup for Spence, even if they're the same weight as far as style goes.
Mm-hmm.
And he just had not tool one to beat him with. Thank you, Mikey Garcia, for some good nights, some fun nights. I think you could have gotten a little more out of your ability, but you didn't. So, Mikey Garcia, that's pretty much it for him. Let's touch on a fight that happened, then we'll have a little bit of fun. But let's just touch on the cruiserweight title bout this past weekend, where Marius Briedis lost to Jai Apatia. Now, I believe you saw the fight.
I saw the fight.
Okay.
I didn't know that much about Apatia. I knew he was unbeaten and everything, but there were just no big names on there. He came out of almost left field, and I figured this is going to be another opponent from the other side of the world. And
right,
Marius Briedis, we know this is a world-class fighter. I mean, his only loss came to a guy by the name of Usyk.
And it was Usyk's toughest fight. That was a split decision. That was a close fight.
Well, off that, and just everything I've seen of Briedis, how do you pick against Briedis, against the guy who we really don't know? So, and I didn't. I mean, I saw a little bit of Opatai, but it wasn't enough to tell me, oh man, he is going to beat Briedis.
Ditto that.
What a fight it was. I never thought it was going to be. Unfortunately, both guys, and you never, if you're a manager of a fighter, and I want everybody to realize this, if you're the manager of a fighter, you never want to see your fighter in the fight of the year.
No.
Which means your guy was hitting him, but the other guy was hitting your fighter.
Yep.
You want to see your guy land the knockout, get the knockout of the year or the performance of the year, whatever. This was basically a 2-sided demolition derby. They broke each other's faces. One guy had a broken jaw, the other guy had a broken nose. They were all busted up. But what a fight it was.
I'll tell you this. From what I saw from Apatia, I like what I saw. He's a lanky guy that can move. He's in terrific condition. And what I noticed about him, when you see a tall guy that's lanky, you think, okay, outside fighter, have to pressure him, get inside, crowd him, smother him. That would be the main with most guys like that. But this Apatia, I have to tell you something, Randy. Watching him fight, he is very hard to attack because You never know what's coming. And I thought he had a really imaginative offense. And I don't think Bridas ever really had a read on him, except later in the fight when he realized his title was slipping away. So in closing, I think that Apathy is somebody I want to see fight again. He's 22-0, 17 knockouts. I think his trainer, Mark Wilson, may have been the star of the show that night. He was really good in the corner. He gave him terrific advice, and I'm going to watch him down the road. Any final thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I do think that Wilson did a great job in the corner, and if I can just get back for a second, Wilson did do a great job, and you hear that. Let's get back for a second to the Anthony Joshua Usyk fight. One of the things that Joshua was saying, my corner was never telling me that I was behind. Wilson, meanwhile,
unbelievable.
So, of course, Joshua's made his changes. Opatia, though, I think that whole camp all of a sudden has thrust themselves out of nowhere into boxing superstardom.
I agree. And Opatia will be somebody to watch. We're down to about 4 minutes left. I wanted to touch on something that Max Kellerman said a while ago about, and I agree with him. I agree with this statement, although I don't agree with much he says. But he said, if you pulled up to an intersection and there was a fight on one corner, a basketball game, a football game, and a hockey game or whatever, everybody would stop and watch the fight. I think you agree. Maybe we'll touch on that at another time. But what I want to close with is, you knew Joe Frazier. I trained at his gym. Can you give me a Cliff Notes version of your best story, and then I'll give you mine?
Very funny. In 1975, Joe Frazier was actually the manager of Dwayne Bobbick, the former heavyweight contender. And Joe invited me down to Philadelphia. He was fighting at the Spectrum. And before the match, Joe says, come out to dinner with me and my crew, his brother and a few other people. And I had a guest with me, a guy by the name of Wayne Kelly, who became one of the best referees in the world.
I know you mean.
It was me and Wayne and about 6 others, and we're all sitting there, and I'm ordering, and Joe is ordering, and we're all ordering. We're getting our meals, and Joe goes, "Hey, anybody want some wine? Bring 2 bottles over here." And the bill comes, and with the bill, the waitress walks over and hands me the bill. It was all set up by Joe. So she hands me the bill, and I look at the bill, and I'm like, uh-oh, what do I do? It was like $1,000. And I'm like, so Joe's going, hey, come on, little man. Come on, little man. Pay the bill and let's get out of here. And I look, he goes, nah, I'm only joking. Give me the bill.
That's a good one.
Well, that was Joe. To know Joe was just to love him, and he had an incredible sense of humor. And I know you got a million. What's your?
I'll give you my quick story. It's 1979. It's the Monday after the Shavers-Holmes rematch when Shavers dropped Holmes in the 8th round. The Pope was in Philly that week. Joe was a big car guy, and he had one of his cars they were working on City Line Avenue, and he needed a ride. Well, at that time, I had a 77 silver blue Corvette. So Joe comes in the gym and he goes, that Corvette, he goes, I think the white boy's driving the Corvette. He goes, are you busy? I said, what's up? And Lee came up to me and he said, Lee was one of Joe's aides. And he says, look, Joe needs a ride to City Line Avenue to get his limo. Would you take him? So I'm thinking, wow, it'd be a lot of traffic. I'm going to be in a car, just me and Joe Frazier for an hour probably. I can pump his brain on everything. So anyhow, we're driving there. We're stuck on the Schuylkill Expressway, and he's telling me he wants me to drive faster. And I said, Joe, there's too many cars. I can't get on it. So anyhow, I mentioned a couple of his fights, and I mentioned the first Jerry Quarry fight. He shook his head, and he laughed. He goes, Jerry could be champ today. He just didn't have strong skin. He said, let me tell you a story. He goes, I think it was around the 3rd round of our fight in 69. And he goes, we're trading shots. And I said, I'm going to kill you, Jerry. And he said, Quarry said back, that's what it's going to take. That's what you're going to have to do. And he just started laughing and cracking up. And you could just tell he had the utmost respect for Jerry Quarry, as Joe Frazier did.
I realized that Joe once said that to me because I asked him. Jerry was the first guy that I really ever came to know, and I was very happy to hear that my favorite fighter, Joe Frazier, really loved Jerry Quarry. So, I mean, I miss Joe so much, and I wish every one of us had a chance to meet Joe.
Yeah, he was a fun guy to be around. Randy, I want to thank you for coming on. It was great. We could do this over and over and over again. It was a great time. I'm sure we'll do it again. And you and your family and your wife, Ronnie, have a wonderful 4th of July.
And back to you and everybody else. Thank you so much